Thank you. Breaking news, the RMT, the main transport workers union, holding a press conference on national rail strikes. Let's listen in.
Meaning that we'll be taking continuous industrial action for more than 4 weeks. Despite every effort made by our negotiators, it is clear now that the government is directly interfering in our attempts to reach a settlement. The union suspended previous strike action in good faith to allow for intensive negotiations to resolve the dispute. Yet Network Rail has failed to make an improved offer on jobs, pay and conditions for our members during the last 2 weeks of talks. At the same time, the Rail Delivery Group, representing the train operating companies, has also broken a promise to make a meaningful offer on pay and conditions, and even cancelled negotiations that were due to take place yesterday with 1 hour's notice. We also have evidence from all 14 of the train operating companies denying that the Rail Delivery Group has the authority to conduct negotiations on their behalf. Even as the RDG yesterday urged us to come back to the table and develop a deal. We now doubt that either the Rail Delivery Group or the train operators themselves actually have the authority to negotiate a settlement to this dispute, and we have the evidence here with us. The letters that they've written and that their lawyers have written to us. The authority now sits directly with the Secretary of State, Mark Harper, and he seems intent on blocking any deal being developed between the parties. I will be taking this up with him at a meeting that he has arranged with me for this Thursday morning. This latest round of strikes will show how important our members are to the running of the country, and will send a clear message that we want a good deal on job security, pay and conditions for our people. We have been reasonable, but it is impossible to find a negotiated settlement when the dead hand of the government is presiding over and blocking a resolution in these talks. The employers are in disarray and saying different things to different people, sometimes at the same time. The whole process has become a farce that only the new Secretary of State can now resolve, and I will be calling on him to act up to his responsibilities this Thursday. In the meantime, our message to the public is we are sorry to inconvenience you, but we urge you to direct your anger and frustration at the government and the railway employers during this latest phase of action. We call upon all trade unionists in Britain to take a stand and fight for better pay and conditions in their respective industries, and we will seek to coordinate action, including strike action where we can. Working people across our class need a pay rise, and we are determined to win that for our members in the RMT. And we will support all other workers in their campaigns and actions. Thank you very much.
Helena from BBC.
On your message to the public, but 4 of the dates in the run-up to Christmas, I think you mentioned 13th, 14th, 16th and 17th of December. What do you say to the millions of people who want this job and to the businesses who are already suffering?
Well, we apologise for that. We don't want this disruption. Our members will lose a serious amount of money taking this action, and we will do what we can to support them. But it's time for this government to get serious. They have created this dispute by cutting £2 billion worth of funding from the mainline railway, National Rail. They've also cut £2 billion from London Transport, and we've got disputes there. So they have made those cuts, and the effect of that is that thousands of our members are under threat of the loss of their jobs. We have serious doubts that the services will be able to be maintained with these cuts. They're bringing in stringent cuts to the safety regime on the railway in order to make the redundancies, and they're going to rip up our terms and conditions. And let's not forget, we haven't had a pay rise, most of our members, for 3 years now, and we're coming to the turn of the year again with no deal in place. So we're serious about what we're doing. We apologise for that disruption, but really the Secretary of State, rather than sitting on his hands, has got to get down to the serious business of creating a settlement in this industry. Yesterday I was told directly by the most senior person working for the train operating companies that he has been stopped from offering us a deal. Even a deal that we may not like, that we could develop. He has been prevented from doing that by the Department for Transport, and it seems that they are stuck on the idea that they will continue this dispute into the new year for whatever reason they've got. So the public's anger should be at the government, and we hope they have some sympathy for our members and for all the other workers in this industry and across industries and across the economy that are struggling to make ends meet and earn a living in this society.
What impact would you expect the overtime ban to have?
Yeah. We expect it to have serious impacts. Network Rail will be doing a lot of engineering work over that period. They've got a lot of planned closures, they've got a lot of planned blockades, and we expect there to be a very serious impact through that overtime ban. Plus there will be shortages of train crew and other safety critical grades during that period. So we expect there to be disruption arising from that overtime ban, otherwise we wouldn't be doing it.
Do you expect it to impact passengers during that Christmas to New Year period?
We expect it to impact the entire railway service.
Do you worry about losing public...
the overtime ban start?
The overtime ban starts on the 18th and runs through to the 2nd of January.
Do you worry about losing public support? Obviously, there's a cost of living crisis. Lots of people are suffering at the moment. This coming at Christmas of the last 2 years with COVID.
Well, we are concerned about the public and their ability to make their own living. We're concerned about how the public feel about our disputes. But the public have also made it clear in opinion poll after opinion poll that they support us and they support the other workers in this economy who are being screwed down in order to pay for a crisis that was not of their making. And what you will see, if there's not a square deal on pay and other matters, is a transfer of wealth from the working people of this country to the super rich and the people that will be paying dividends throughout this economic crisis. So that is how wealth is redistributed. And the problem in this society, it's been redistributed the wrong way. The ordinary people, the men and women of this country that get up for work every day are being forced to transfer their money to the utility companies and the energy companies and the super rich in order to pay for this crisis. And that's not acceptable. Everyone in Britain needs a pay deal, and we're determined to get one for our members.
You mentioned about coordinated strike action possibly. Can you give us any indication of conversations you've been having with other sectors or other unions?
Well, we will be having discussions at the TUC and with other separate unions, and we will seek to coordinate whenever we can. We've put down our marker, and it's now up to others, and there are a whole series of ballot results coming through in November and December and even into January, and we will be seeking to coordinate with any set of workers that wishes to stand up and fight for their futures. So we're open to any discussions with any unions or with the TUC itself.
How hopeful are you for some sort of progress on this meeting on Thursday? Rail delivery group said they can see the outline of a deal.
Well, if they can see the outline of a deal, you'd wonder why they cancelled the meeting with an hour's notice yesterday. I know what the deal is. My executive committee know what the outline of a deal is that they want to propose, but they won't make the offer. You can only take an offer in writing. There is no offer in writing, and there hasn't been for 6 months. No offer on pay, no offer on job security, and no written offer on what they want in terms of what they call modernisation. So I'm not hopeful if senior people in the industry are not allowed to put pen to paper and sign it and say, there's our proposed deal. I'm not hopeful that this government will allow any deal in this industry, because they seem intent on having disputes with workers all across every sector of our economy.
Is the Network Rail offer different to the one that was offered back in the summer, which never went to the members?
It's no different in substance. There are some wording changes, but substantially it's a 4+4 offer over 2 years. It gives nothing for last year, so it lasts over 3 years in effect. So it's the same deal in a different bundle, and it's still not acceptable, and it won't be acceptable even if they redress it half a dozen times.
So they haven't changed it substantially?
No, not at all.
It's going to cost the industry literally hundreds of millions of pounds. Does that make your action self-defeating? Because you're just going to run it into the ground and end up destroying it, and then your members won't.
Well, then it would be cheaper to settle rather than hold out. So what's going on, and the Daily Mail particularly want to pay attention to this, is that every day that we have a strike, the government writes a cheque for the train operating company of £30 million. That's 8 days already, so work that out, and there's going to be 8 days more. Every time we do that, they will transfer taxpayers' money from the government coffers to the private sector, who are all making profit during all this period and made profit throughout the pandemic without any losses being suffered whatsoever. So you would wonder who has got the ideological point in this dispute. We believe it's the government that are transferring all of our money to private sector train operating companies for no good reason, when they could sponsor a settlement very quickly and get a reasonable deal.
a lot of your members are going to lose jobs.
Well, they're threatening us with thousands of jobs, which they won't name. So the documents they've sent us threaten us with thousands of jobs, and one of our claims is to get a job security agreement. Now, they're ready to write that agreement. I've seen a version of it written down. For some reason, the Department of Transport stopped that meeting with 55 minutes' notice yesterday afternoon. I don't know why that's happening. Perhaps somebody in Fleet Street can find out. Because what will happen after this is that the right-wing press will regurgitate every line that the train operating companies and the RDG and the government put out without question. So maybe some of these questions should be put to them. Why are they sponsoring a trade dispute costing millions and millions of taxpayers' pounds? I'm not dragging anything out. I'm determined to get a settlement, and we could get a settlement very quickly, even this week. So we will keep campaigning, we will keep striking until we get a set of proposals that our members can support in a referendum.
What would you accept? What deal right now could they come up with that you would...
Well, I will negotiate with the people that employ our members, and then we'll talk about that, and it will be up to our members to decide what they want to accept.
What made you decide on these specific dates? Obviously, you could have caused more disruption doing it closer to Christmas. Would you not want to do that?
Well, our business isn't just to disrupt people's Christmas. We're pursuing an industrial dispute, and we will take the most effective action that we can to pursue that dispute, bearing in mind what public opinion is like, and that's a difficult thing to countenance, and what we need to do to get these companies back to the table. So they've got 2 or 3 weeks now before any action is taken to put serious proposals on the table. It's up to them whether they want to do that and avoid all of this action.
I calculate that for every striker, the railway industry has lost £5,000. That's a lot of money to be taken out of the industry.
Well, it's not being taken out of the industry. The company is dumping taxpayers' money back into the accounts of the train operating companies. They have indemnified them for every strike we've taken. And the train operating companies themselves have suffered no losses whatsoever. So the money's not leaving in the industry in any sense that you might describe, Simon. A cheque is being written by Mark Harper, by Grant Shapps, and whoever came in between, if you can remember those people. They've written cheques directly to Steve Montgomery and Andy Meadows, who I face at the table, and Abellio and First Group and Go Ahead Group, pocket that money and lose no money whatsoever when we're on strike. So the questions have got to be asked the other way round. We're not taking the money out of the industry. We give up our wages. They don't give up their dividends or their profits. They're indemnified for every loss that is incurred through the fare box.
Because of how close these strikes are to Christmas, you're being nicknamed Mick Grinch. Is that a nickname you're proud of?
Well, I expect that from yourself. That's the sort of quality journalism I've come to expect from your particular dark corner of Fleet Street. So you can call us what you want, and no doubt you will call us what you want, and you called Mr Mosley one of the finest things that ever happened, as I remember, when you were back in the black shirt. So you can back them, you can black us. I'm not the Grinch, I'm a trades union official, and I'm determined to get a deal.
Mr Lynch, we just had a statement from the rail delivery group saying, as I said yesterday, real progress has been made. We owe it to the passengers to stay around the table, asking the RMT to stay at the negotiating table.
It's hysterical, isn't it? I had a meeting with them, and I've got an email on my phone here from Steve Montgomery saying, I'm cancelling this meeting. On Saturday morning, he rang me personally and said, come to a meeting on Monday, I will make you an offer, and you can bring that to your executive committee on Tuesday. And they're all here waiting for that offer. He phoned me at 1:05 yesterday for a 2 o'clock meeting and said to me, I've had to cancel this meeting. I am not allowed to make you an offer, either on the conditions, the job security or the pay. The only people that could have stopped him making that offer are the Department for Transport. So they're calling me back to a table that they asked me not to go to yesterday. Well, I will be at the table this afternoon if they want, but they have to make an offer. There's no point in me sitting around there sharing cups of tea and biscuits with them if nothing ever comes out of those meetings. We've been in with them for 6 months since the action started, and we were in with them for a year before the ballot started back in the springtime. So they've got to be serious about making proposals. And at the moment, we believe they're not allowed to make those proposals for a political reason.